We're about 1/4 of the way through the season, and we're starting to see some players cement themselves as potential Heisman Trophy candidates. Though it's still very early in the season, here's my top 10 for the Heisman Trophy entering week 4 of the college football season. Before we get to today's video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to the channel. If you love college football content, then this is definitely the place for you. Also, drop a comment down below and let me know who your Heisman picks are. It helps the algorithm of the video and helps share it with more college football fans. Plus, I'd love to see who you guys have in your rankings. Kicking off our list at number 10 is Maryland quarterback Taliyah Vilola, who currently has Maryland 3-0 on the season. Through 3 games, he's thrown for 1,000 yards with 7 passing touchdowns and no interceptions. He's also completing over 75% of his passes. He threw 3 touchdown passes against a very good West Virginia defense. Then, this past week on the road at Illinois, he had 32 completions for 350 yards and a touchdown, including leading the Terps on a game-winning drive in the 4th quarter. In 2 weeks, the Terps are going to have back-to-back games against Iowa and Ohio State. If Taliyah can somehow pull off an upset in one of those 2 games, I think we'll really see his Heisman campaign start to build even more. Next at number 9, we have Spencer Rattler, who has just been severely underwhelming to begin the season. Through the first 3 games, his numbers aren't awful, as he's completing 75% of his passes with 750 passing yards and 9 total touchdowns. But he's just struggled against some pretty weak competition. Oklahoma almost lost at home to Tulane, and he had more interceptions than touchdown passes. Then against Nebraska, he had only 1 touchdown pass, and the Sooners were on upset watch all game. He's likely going to finish the season with some of the best numbers in the country, but until he shows up and has a really good game against a team he's supposed to beat, it's tough to really have him any higher on this list. Coming in at number 8 is one of the best running backs in college football this season, Michigan running back Blake Corum. Through the first 3 games, he's rushed for over 400 yards, averaging 8.5 yards a carry with 7 rushing touchdowns. In addition, he's also caught 6 passes for 50 yards with a receiving touchdown as well. He has at least 110 rushing yards in all 3 games and has scored in every game as well, including 6 touchdowns in just his last 2 games. It looks as if Michigan is going to be making some noise in the Big Ten this season, which means that Corum could be in the Heisman discussion as the Wolverines' best playmaker. Number 7 goes to Malik Willis, who will definitely put up numbers this season that are going to be worthy of winning the Heisman. The only downside is that he plays absolutely nobody, which is ultimately going to hurt his chances. Through the first 3 weeks, he's thrown for over 600 yards with 7 passing touchdowns and 0 interceptions. He's also rushed for over 200 yards with 4 rushing touchdowns as well. He's on a full season pace for about 50 touchdowns and 4,000 total yards of offense. If he was doing this in a Power 5 conference, he'd easily finish top 3 in voting, but playing at Liberty is just too much to overcome, unfortunately. Number 6 goes to Oregon running back CJ Verdell, who is my top ranked running back through my Heisman rankings. He's rushed for 300 yards and has 3 rushing touchdowns, along with 8 catches for 70 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. You can make the case that Blake Corum has been better, but I have Verdell a little higher because of his performance last week on the road at Ohio State. He had a pretty quiet week against Stony Brook as he totaled 90 yards with a touchdown, but it was only Stony Brook, so I feel like Oregon was just holding him back. With Pac-12 play getting underway, I'm excited to see how Verdell and Oregon perform the rest of the way. Before I get to my top 5, if you could take a second and give this video a thumbs up, I would greatly appreciate it. It helps share the video with more college football fans, and it only takes a second to do. Coming in at number 5, we have Desmond Ritter, who probably has the best chance of a non-Power 5 player to win the Heisman Trophy. He currently has Cincinnati inside the top 10 and is undefeated, and will likely be in the discussion all season, barring something major happening. He's been great for the Bearcats yet again, as he's thrown for 750 yards with 7 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns. He was just okay this week against Indiana, as he threw for 200 yards and had 2 total touchdowns. Ritter was able to help Cincinnati come from behind and pick up a convincing win on the road, but I was hoping he'd look a little better. He was my number 1 pick entering the season and then quickly fell out after an awful week 1. But he's back in my top 5 as North Carolina quarterback Sam Howell comes in at number 4. What he's done for the Tar Heels over the last 2 weeks has been insane, and I feel like he's flying very under the radar. If he would have won in week 1, I think he might be the Heisman frontrunner, or at least in the top 3. Over his last 2 games, Sam Howell has thrown for just under 700 yards and has 8 touchdowns. In addition to those impressive numbers, he's also rushed for over 200 yards and has 2 rushing touchdowns as well. He's been amazing, and if he can continue to have these games and North Carolina can continue their winning streak, he'll be right back in the Heisman discussion in no time. Number 3 is a player that is nowhere near the odds of any list you can find, and that's SMU quarterback Tanner Mordecai. Not only is SMU 3-0, but Tanner Mordecai has put up some numbers that are better than any quarterback in the nation. He's one of 7 quarterbacks who have already thrown for over 1,000 yards, but he leads all quarterbacks with 16 passing touchdowns. The next closest has only 11. In his first full year as a starter at the FBS level, he hasn't disappointed. This past weekend against Louisiana Tech, he threw a game-winning Hail Mary to shock them for the victory. He threw for 400 yards with 5 passing touchdowns and no interceptions, while also adding 50 yards on the ground. I still think Desmond Ritter has the best chance of a group of 5 player winning the Heisman, but if SMU continues to win and Mordecai keeps putting up these numbers, he'll be a legitimate candidate. Not to mention, he's also on pace to throw 64 passing touchdowns. Number 2 on my list is the current betting favorite, Ole Miss quarterback Matt Corral. Through 3 games, he's thrown for 1,000 yards with 9 passing touchdowns and 0 interceptions. He's also added 150 yards on the ground with 5 rushing touchdowns. This past weekend, he became the first player in SEC history to rush for 4 touchdowns in a game while also throwing for 3 touchdowns. He did this after throwing for 5 touchdowns last week. Matt Corral is going to put up video game-like numbers all season, and there's a strong chance that he can break some FBS records. The only reason I don't have him though at number 1 is because he just hasn't played anyone yet. Number 1 for me is still Alabama quarterback Bryce Young. Through 3 games, he's thrown for 800 yards and has 10 passing touchdowns and no interceptions. He's taken down not 1, but 2 top 15 teams away from home, which is the reason I currently have him at number 1. This weekend, on the road at the Swamp, Bryce Young threw for 250 yards with 3 passing touchdowns. He's only made 3 career starts, and he'll continue to get better as the season moves on. The Heisman race right now is a 2-man battle between him and Matt Corral, and things are going to get very interesting in a couple weeks, as Alabama will host Ole Miss. I think there's a chance that Ole Miss can actually pull off the upset. The points are going to be flowing in that game, and I think that it's going to set the stage for the Heisman frontrunner moving forward. Well, those are my 10 current picks for the Heisman Trophy. Was there a player I didn't mention that you think should be on this list? Let me know in the comments down below. Am I too high on a player or too low on a player? Let me know as well. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to the channel. I'm posting college football videos all season long, so if you're a college football fan, then this is definitely the place for you. If there are any other college football videos you'd like to see similar to this, drop a comment down below and it very well could turn into my next video. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.